A legitimate question during the 1980 USA presidential election. What would have happened if Ronald Reagan picked former President Gerald R. Ford as a running mate? What would change the vice presidency? Like and subscribe for more. In a later timeline, Ford declines the offer, repeatedly telling Reagan that the answer is no. But the convention decides Ford as Reagan's running mate, and the two goes on to win the general election in a bigger landslide, winning every state but Georgia and Rhode Island and D.C. Gerald Ford's first vice presidential term. Gerald Ford uses his influence to help Reagan's agenda and preside over the Senate. 1984 election. Can Reagan Ford win again? Because of a popular term, Reagan wins the election. Though in a smaller landslide than in real life. Not 1888 election. Ford versus Biden. Joe Biden assumes the Democratic nomination in 1988. Thanks to being the vice president under a popular administration, Ford wins the election in a landslide by campaigning on raising no taxes. Many people trust Ford way more than Bush. And Ford wins in a landslide by promising to restore unity and dignity to the presidency. Gerald Ford's first term, cabinet, and agenda. Gerald Ford would probably appoint someone like Secretary of State. Maybe someone like Howard Dean or Pat Buchanan, Defense. Maybe someone like Harold Stassen, Supreme Court appointments. Maybe like Alan Keyes or George W. Bush. Election of 1992, Ford versus Clinton. Thanks to a popular year, Ford is able to be re-elected in a squeaker with 280 electoral votes. Gerald Ford's second presidential term. Ford continues detente, raising no new taxes, dignity to the presidency, and which changes the vice presidency also. Ford's vice president, Pat Buchanan, assumes the Republican nomination in 1996. 1996 election, Buchanan versus Gore. After 16 years of Republican ruling, Ford declines in popularity, mostly due to how he mishandles the economy. Al Gore capitalizes on hope and change. Gore wins the election with 404 electoral votes and 61.2% of the popular vote. Al Gore's first term. Can he stop the declining economy? The declining economy ends within the first few months of Gore's term. Gore's approval rating skyrocketed as a high of 101% because of his popularity, the highest of any president. Election of 2000, Bush versus Gore, just like in real life. Al Gore wins Democratic renomination. Bush is the Republican nomination. Gore wins re-election, narrowly defeating Bush by being popular and capitalizing on hope and change. 9/11, does it still happen? 9/11 doesn't happen in this timeline. Gore's second term goes well. That is until the Iraq War comes up. The Iraq War, it still happens. the Iraq War still happens as Al Gore tries to send troops to fight the Iraq War. As the Iraq War keeps being questioned, Al Gore's approval rating drops from 100% to 50%. 2004, Bush vs. Lieberman. Joe Lieberman assumes the Democratic nomination unopposed. George W. Bush assumes the Republican nomination. George W. Bush defeats Lieberman by winning all former Confederate states and Minnesota and Ohio. How does Bush stop the Iraq War? Bush starts the Iraq War within the first year of his term. The 2008 recession, the most devastating recession. George W. Bush stops the 2008 recession. Though Bush struggles during the 2008 recession, as Bush signs a bill which vetoes tariffs, the 2008 recession stops. 2008 election, Obama vs. Bush. It's a tough race, but Bush wins re-election with 282 electoral votes. As Ohio was worth 22 electoral votes in this time, it did sweep the election in Bush's favor. Bush's second term, 2009-2013. Bush continues his own legacy and Gerald Ford's legacy. But then disaster would come. The disaster was largely due to the Garment War, which in this timeline happens within the first few months of Bush's term. Bush sends troops there, but the American loses the war badly. Bush's approval rating drops all the way down to 11%, the lowest of any outgoing president. 2012, Clinton vs. Cheney. The Republicans nominate Vice President Dick Cheney. Hillary Clinton is the Democratic nominee. Hillary Clinton wins in a landslide with 339 electoral votes to Cheney's 199. 2016, Clinton vs. Rubio. Marco Rubio wins the Republican nomination in 2016. Hillary Clinton wins Democratic nomination. Despite a good campaign by Rubio, Hillary Clinton wins re-election, defeating Rubio. The COVID-19 pandemic and the murder of John Floyd. The murder of John Floyd still happens, but way more earlier in this timeline. The COVID-19 pandemic, a different response. The COVID-19 pandemic still happens, though the COVID-19 pandemic goes very bad. Election of 2020, Rubio vs. Buttigieg. Marco Rubio wins the Republican nomination again, and Rubio wins in a landslide with 344 electoral votes. The withdrawal from Afghanistan, does it still happen? The withdrawal from Afghanistan does still happen. The COVID-19 pandemic, what does Rubio does to stop it? Rubio stops the COVID-19 pandemic. 2024 election, Rubio vs. Amy Klobuchar. With a stable economy, Rubio heads into the race. Rubio easily wins re-election. a different legacy in this timeline. Ford's different legacy is the only vice president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to watch more of my videos.